we have a lot of news stories where people use undue force, or a punishment does not fit a crime, or something happens, and there are always two sides to a story, because nowadays there is no such thing as a universal wrong. The news likes to find situations where they can find a group of people who are protesting, and that is interesting and that is newsworthy, but that's only newsworthy for a short period of time. After a while it becomes boring, and they need something to excite this situation. They need violence to erupt. They need a crime to happen. And then all of a sudden, all the protesters are now just like the criminal. If peaceful demonstrators are joined by rioters, all of a sudden the face of the protest is now the rioters, because riots and destruction and chaos, that is a news story. All of a sudden now, your police or your other oppressors are now the victims. It's, well, you should have, or we need to. Anytime people going to a pool party, there are 12 police officers, but yet one is singled out, well, then everybody who he chased with a gun, or if he sat on a girl, well, she must have done something wrong. Our news, our media likes to say she's not a saint. We have a former Speaker of the House who's accused of molesting children. That used to be a universal wrong. That used to be something that everyone could agree was wrong. But now we have news coverage that wonders, well, who was he giving the money to? Well, shouldn't they be called out for extortion? Personally, I think that the least you could do to someone who you molest is pay them so that they can get on and have somewhat of a normal life. It shouldn't happen. We should be working towards a society where this is just wrong, but we don't, because we have now become obsessed with blaming our victims. We see it on our television shows like SVU. We see it in the news. It's always the victim is on trial. We put up pictures. They say, which picture would they use? And as much as I don't particularly agree that this is the right way to go about a situation, we have gotten into a culture where we almost require a perfect victim. It's almost that if something happens, the mere fact that maybe you have done something in the past, or maybe the fact that you have been involved in something not quite as upstanding, makes you almost deserve it. I mean, do people deserve to die? Do people deserve to be hurt? I don't think that's right at all. But it's almost like we are constantly looking for some perfect victim to say, okay, finally, this one person didn't deserve it. But you see, in our culture, we never universally get behind anything. We always have to have a dissenting opinion. The concept of, once again, universal wrongs just don't seem to exist. Maybe it's comes from the fact that people can't really give an apology. Maybe it's because people can never really admit to being wrong. They don't want to admit that the things that they do are wrong. Our media gets behind certain people, goes against others. There is no consensus, except businesses. You see, we push forward this thought that businesses are people too, so they can buy influence and no one bats an eyelash. It's, when banks use unfair practices, we still bail them out because we can't afford to lose them. So maybe this entire time, our wealthiest members of society, our corporations, maybe they are America's perfect victims. I mean, you can't raise taxes on them because that's just wrong. You can't change how they do business because that's just wrong. You can't question them on things because that's just wrong. So maybe in America this entire time, our perfect victims have been standing right on top of us the entire time.